Euro, folks. This is the first video of our year. If you look back to last year, there are other videos, but this one goes all the way back to our roots in the Renaissance, starting around 1400. The idea behind these videos is to provide something that's quicker than listening to the entire class again, that's portable, that can be watched or listened to, and that comes in handy not just now as you review for your unit exam in about a month, but in addition to, I should say, when you're reviewing for the AP exam in May. So, looking at the study guide, we're just going to make our way through making the major points. Your study guide probably says more than what I'm about to tell you if we already covered this material. If not, these are things we'll talk about in class, and these will be good things for you to know. The Renaissance, by definition, is a rebirth of classical learning and classical ideals that were lost after the Roman and Greek periods. And when the church began to take over society as a part of the Middle Ages, a lot of those ideas went out of vogue, and they came back in the 1300s and the 1400s. Where did they find their inspiration? Well, the Renaissance thinkers were just absolutely in love with the Greeks and the Romans. They loved the prose of Cicero. They loved the fact that Cicero was a highly educated guy, but on top of that he also had this dedication to the city-state. A Renaissance thinker would tell you that all of this education you're going to amass is useless if you do nothing with it. You have to do something with it, and the best something to do with it is civic service. You should amass this background in this career and then use it as a way of helping other people. Service to humankind. Some major ideas, a lot of isms here. Humanism, an appreciation of humanity as the greatest thing ever, that human beings have the potential to do so much, that they are God's greatest creation. Humanism also describes the curriculum of material that a person should study. Like, for instance, when I went to college at Gonzaga, I kind of studied a humanist core. In the first couple of years, although I took more history classes than anything else, I also took philosophy and political science and music and English and drama and all sorts of different things. Now, I didn't take falconry because that would be cool. Okay, I did take racquetball, though. That's got to count for something, right? Racquetball was a good class. It's a good idea. Okay, I was going to take bowling, but I didn't. To this day, I'm pretty horrible at bowling. Okay, some other isms: individualism, the idea that one specific human being can be a genius. The Middle Ages kind of convinced people that there's really nothing special about you. You are one of but millions of souls. There is no reason for you to try and stand out. Okay? Just live and then die, and then hopefully you'll go to heaven if you've done it right. There's classicism, a love of the great classical periods of humankind. And then there's also this idea of secularism. This is perhaps one of the more tricky ones. Secularism is not that we should turn away from religion. Indeed, most of the great figures of the Renaissance are religious men. But that we can appreciate this life here as well. That our secular life, as opposed to, say, our heavenly life, the life that comes after death, our secular life before death, can be good as well. That we can appreciate it. That there's something to be achieved here that's worthy of being achieved. Okay? What role did the city of Florence, especially the Medici, play in the Renaissance economy? They're the bank. For a long time, if you're looking for a loan and you're looking for a big loan, the Medici in Florence are your center point. They're the most important, wealthiest family in all of the European society. Now, eventually they're going to fall from grace, but at their height, the Medici were the center of the European trade routes. Any goods coming from the Middle East, I beg your pardon, or going to the Middle East, crossing in between, Florence is the center point, and that's where the money pools. That's important because if we're going to talk about Renaissance art, and we're going to talk about sculptures and frescoes and all of these things, and even writing, you have to have patrons. You have to have people who are willing to say, I will support you, I will pay for you to eat while you sculpt me that beautiful thing for 18 months. And that money is going to come from the church, it's also going to come from the Medici. They're the bankroll for those things. The next question is about Castle Yoni. I'm not going to tell you what a schedule would be, but the important thing that Castle Yoni wants you to know is that a courtier does many things well. That a courtier is not satisfied, let's say, with being, let's say, just a history teacher. That courtier would, on the side, become a good bowler, Holliday. That's a good idea. And they would also be interested in music. And they would, at the same time, be great at poetry. And they could play a musical instrument. And that they had perfect manners. And that they understood the past. And that they could sing well and write a sonnet. All of these things have to be done well. It is not enough to simply say, I'm really good at one thing, but that's, I'm really good at it. No. Okay, think of athletics. We want the decathlete. the person who can go out there and do something amazing in 10 athletes. Don't bring me this one-show wonder so you can run the 100 meters in 10 seconds. Ah, hooey. Give me something special. Not that that's not special, but you get the point. Okay. Briefly discuss Renaissance attitudes towards the following. The organization of marriages. Marriages are made by the parents. If you're an individual getting married, you're really not going to make the decision. It's not about love, it's about economics and trying to find the best marriage for your family. Okay, there's a great quote in the book that you'll read where a parent says to the child, the child asks the parent, who are you going to have me married? And the parent says, why don't you mind your own business? Okay, it's interesting. The role of the man and the father. The father is the center of the household. He is to go out and earn the money and provide for the family, and he makes the important decisions. The mother, on the other hand, is really in charge of the domestic sphere. Depending on what family we're talking about, the mom might be in charge of running a household of servants, if we're talking about wealthy individuals. But at the same time, it might be that the mom is just the chief officer of the home, that she is the one managing the children, having babies, raising the kids, taking care of the homestead while the husband is away. Something I really don't have on the study guide here, but let me make this point. This is an elite movement. We should not in any way believe that this is a movement, the Renaissance that is, that's going to touch the lives of every human being in Europe. That is not true at all. Okay? This is really the upper echelons of society. Now, eventually, the ripple effect, you could argue, decades and centuries down the line, is going to affect everyone. But in the short run, Shlomo the ox cart driver, right, who lives in southern France, isn't sitting around the fire at night going, oh, I have not seen Raphael's newest fresco, but I hear it's fantastique. Okay, they don't do that. Okay, that's not something you would have done if you were Shlomo the ox cart driver. Okay? Italian politics is a balance of power politics, what we call realpolitik. Okay, these are people who are going to check each other's power, assuring that no one is too strong, no one is too weak. Occasionally, we're going to involve foreign powers and alliances, and as a result of that, Italy is not going to be a unified state. When we look at the Italian peninsula, the boot, for the lack of a better phrase, it's all in parts, and that's going to be the reality until the 1860s, so a long time down the road. Machiavelli, when he writes his Prince, and discusses the importance of politics being about reality and not being about hoping that people act morally and hoping that they behave in certain manners. What Machiavelli is really doing is reaching out to Italian society and saying, someone please, please, do it the right way. Take on the right attitudes. Become that lion and that fox that he talks about. Someone who's willing to risk it all. Someone who can measure human beings, betray them when needs be loyal when needs be, and perfectly gauge the situation to unite Italy. That, in his eyes, is the greater goal. That Italy should stop being some sort of a football that the other major European states use as a forum for war, right? If I'm France, and here's the Habsburgs of Austria, and I need somewhere to fight, I don't want to fight at home. You don't want to beat up your own house. You want to go somewhere else, and Italy is a nice somewhere else. Okay? Humanism, we defined humanism earlier there, folks. Let's talk about two humanists here, and then we're going to finish this video up here. Lorenzo Valla and Pico della Mirandola. Lorenzo Valla is important as a humanist in that he does this very important investigation of a church document called the Donation of Constantine. The Donation of Constantine gave the church the territory called the Papal States, the center of Italy. What Valla is able to figure out by studying the document is that the language of the document could not have been used during the time period that the church claimed it was made. So in other words, it's a phony. It's a phony because, say, for instance, we're talking about the 1950s, right? And I said, well, the president in the 1950s, President Eisenhower said, that's dope. He wouldn't have said that, right? Dope did not mean what it means in 1950 that it means today in 2014. So it's a completely falsified document. Why is it humanist? Because Valla is breaking down something that the church has held to be dear and sort of using the human brain to say, wait a second, that doesn't look right there. And lastly, Pico della Mirandola, who writes a work called The Oration on the Dignity of Man, that is the cardinal statement of Renaissance values. It is about how beautiful human beings are, how they are the greatest creation that God ever made, and that we as human beings should absolutely lap up the experience that we have. The choices we can make, the opportunities that we are afforded are unlimited. That's going to draw us to a close. We'll continue on in the next video.